Thank you all for being here. We will get our show on the road. And again, I want to welcome all of you to our new series or back by popular demand, our virtual internship series that we ran all of last year. How many of you, show of hands in Zoom, the Zoom hands, how many of you came to one of our virtual internship sessions last school year? Who came? I know we have several folks who were with us last time, and it was great to have you. And I'm so thrilled you're back this time. And how many of you right now are in your school building with students? Tell us in the chat who's here with students right now. Because I know hopefully the world's a little different. We can get back in the building. Oh, still remote or not. But I hope that for many of you, you can have that in-person experience with students this year and really help the learning in that way. So I want to welcome you to our first installment of our virtual internship series for this school year. We're so excited. We have three wonderful guests and from the state of Georgia, all about the world of the trades and the electrical contracting in particular today. And we will do some brief introductions in just a moment. We also have my colleague, Mac Dowd, who is down there. Mac, you can flip off your camera and hang out in the chat. She'll be there. If anybody has questions along the way, she'll be in there answering. So again, we're talking about the world of the trades today. But before we dive into our conversation, I want to always offer some resources and some coming up events for everybody here. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen and run through some quick resources as we always do. Those of you who've been here before, you know our routine, because we always want to leave you with something you can use from this webinar beyond the recording, okay? Can we all see my screen okay? You can see it says 5 free exercises for email etiquette. Everybody see that? Okay. So for those who don't have this yet, especially if you're anybody here new to our sessions, who's here? Raise your hand if you're new, never been here before. So we always like to give out resources. Our company is called Reuben. We provide online instruction for business communication skills. We focus hard on skills like email etiquette. The teachers, raise your hand if your students send you emails that too often look like text messages. Who gets text message looking emails? So we have a Google folder of free resources for email etiquette, covering topics like how to create a professional email address, how to not send emails like text messages, how to write a subject line, how to address teachers and employers, how to make an email signature, and others. These are in a Google folder, ready-made worksheets to teach students how to write more professionally. We talk about email etiquette a lot in our webinars. And so if you'd like those resources, and one other thing, I'll explain how you can get it from us. It's free. We just want to pass it out. So we have a free online presentation checklist as well. How many of you think that your students will have to give virtual presentations some point this year, whether they're at school or they're remote? It's just a way of the present and the future. So we have a one-page checklist for how to prepare, what to do right before you speak, and how to deliver that presentation. It's a simple checklist that's great to give out to students or to keep in the room as a handy guide. So for those of you who don't have these resources yet and you'd like them, all you have to do, we have a very simple process. Please just go to the chat, type the word interested and your email address. If you're new to our community, what we prefer to do, since we can't talk right here, it's too many people, is we like to have a 5-minute phone call later this week to meet you, learn what you're teaching, and help you walk you through these resources so you can use them in your classroom this year. So if you'd like these resources, type interested and your email address in the chat, and we will try to find 5 minutes on your calendar to pass it out, explain it, and then you can pass it on to your colleagues as well. And you can use the resources as a team, because I think we'd all agree that we all need to teach our students collectively how to write a proper email. And we'll talk about that with our guests. I'm sure they've seen quite a few doozies of an email in their careers, coming from students in particular or potential hires. It's just a simple, critical life skill we have to learn while we're in school. So thank you for putting that, your interest in the chat. You can keep doing that. I'm going to keep going down the slide so we can get to our guests, okay? if you end up watching this on a recording, many teachers use this on a recording. We put it on YouTube, okay? And you like these resources, just email us at that email address on the screen with the subject line Reuben email worksheets, and we'll get it to you that way, okay? Because we want everybody who wants this stuff to get it, all right? Now, 2 other points to mention. Super excited about this one. As you know, this is a series of webinars. We do them every 2 weeks in the school year. And 2 weeks from now, September the 7th, we are going to dive into the world of sports careers with professionals from the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Islanders. This is big time. This is Dallas Cowboys. Anybody here a Cowboys fan? I'm not, but I'm just going to, there Shanks is. Some hands went up. So, and also hockey fan. Any hockey fans out there? So these people work at these professional organizations, major league level sports. Jeff Hall says, heck no, he's probably a Giants fan, if I had to guess, up there in New York. Stephanie Burnham Light, well, she's down there in Texas. So we'd love to have you join us. Please tell your whole school. If the students want to meet somebody who works for the Cowboys, works for Jerry Jones, work for the Islanders. They were just in the playoffs, almost made the Stanley Cup. We're going to learn about working in the sort of organizations of these sports teams. Okay. So we'll put a big blast about this next week, but I want to put on your radar now, September 7th, 1:30 Eastern. Okay. Lastly, everyone here today, we're going to send out a certificate to all of you for being here live with your students, and the students can put their name on it. You can put your name on it, and we'll send that out tomorrow morning. Okay. So look out for that. So those are all of our news and notes that I wanted to share. Okay. Now let me turn off the screen for a moment, and I want to introduce our special guests. We have them all in a row. I'm so grateful that they are here. We have Miss Nicole Shanks. We have Miss Linda Berard, right? And Miss Amy Drew. And I'd like for each of them to introduce themselves briefly, and then we will start off with a little discussion about the work that they do at their company. So Miss Shanks, I'll start with you.
I'm Nicole Shanks. I've been working with ACE Electric. I'm the Workforce Development Coordinator. I've been here for 4 years. Majority of my responsibility at the company is to facilitate partnerships with outside organizations, high schools, tech schools, exiting military organizations, other industry-related associations, groups like this, and try and get the interest built back up on what is it like to work in the electrical construction industry, and try and just get the word out there that there's a wonderful place to work, and there's a lot of opportunities here for careers in a very, very diverse industry, and we're excited to have that. I saw Stephanie from Texas pop up there in the chat. She happened to be my cousin, or my husband's cousin, Stephanie Burns, down there.
No way. Oh, I've seen crazier things, so let us know in the chat. So let me go down to Miss Berard. I think we have a connection here.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wow. You know, the country's big, but it's also pretty small, right? Get down to it. Miss Berard, loud and proud, tell us your role.
So, yes, I am Glenda Berard. I work with ACE Electric, obviously, and been with ACE since 2012. I work in the BIM department, which is Building Information Modeling. My responsibility is 3D design, which is three-dimensional. I also do 2D, which is two-dimensional. So I model to build and fabrication anything that's electrical, starting from underground up to rooftop. So basically take design intent drawings from engineers, look it over. We don't really redesign. I don't like to use that word, but we make it work in the building.
Wonderful. You know, one thing we talk about a lot in our webinars is our listening skills. And we want to make sure we're listening for key terms. Who heard her say she works on 2D modeling and also blank modeling? What other things? 2D and what? Can someone tell me in the chat what else she just said? 2D and I heard another number, 3D. Thank you. We want to listen for key terms. We want to focus on details when we talk about ourselves and we listen to others. Let me go down to Ms. Drew. Tell us what you do.
I started in 2000.
Nice and loud, a little loud.
I started in 2007 as an electrical helper out in the field. I then got my electrical journeyman's license a few years later and continued to work out in the field. But then I was brought into the fabrication department, and it was much smaller then. and I ran that. And then after that, I did some estimating. And then after that, I was brought into the office at the fabrication and engineering division here at ACE.
I just want to point out that Amy was our very first ever female out in the field, female electrical helper. And so we're really proud of that. And she's also our very first female to ever graduate from the apprenticeship program. So
amazing. Hey, show of hands if you think that's impressive. The first to do it, first female to do it. Amazing. How many students are interested in their own journeyman's license? Anybody interested in that? Any hands up? So see some hands going up. So there are students here who are interested in doing these exact jobs. You know, it's not just something they were roped into watching. You know, they want to learn. They want to understand. Okay, so thank you for those introductions. What I'm going to do now is do a screen share. I want first do a brief mention of, to help the new folks understand our company and like what we do for some background and why we stress communication skills so much in these conversations. Our company is called Reuben. Our curriculum that many schools around the country, CTE programs use, is called Emerge. And briefly, we cover important skills, many of which we'll talk about today: email etiquette, life skills, phone and video etiquette, like leaving a voicemail on an employer's phone, networking skills, resume writing, cover letter writing, internship outreach emails, LinkedIn profiles, job interview preparation, entrepreneurship communication, idea development, sales writing, website writing, PR skills, fundraising, and finally, leadership communication, managerial communication, client communication, project management correspondence, public speaking training, report writing, and leadership development lessons. Do we have, let me get my chat going again. Do we have anybody here who is an advisor to a CTSO or something else within the school? Put the group you advise in the chat, or if you're a student, the group you're a member of. Love to see the diversity of student organizations that are with us today. And as we do that, I'll flip over to ACE Electric. We have BPA, 4-H. Thank you, Liz, for always being here. Skills USA, FBLA, of course, DECA President. Love it. Thank you for sharing all the organizations you're a part of. So I moved over to the ACE Electric website, and I forgot to pass it out just prior to our conversation, but we sent an email yesterday with a link to a worksheet. Actually, Mac, if you don't mind throwing that link in the chat right now, folks can follow it as we talk. Thank you. We put together a worksheet with some questions to think about and a little bit of homework to do before our conversation today. And one thing that I asked you to do on the worksheet was to visit the ACE Electric website and in particular, study one of the projects they recently completed. And it's this one right here. Now, for those of you who have been to our sessions before, or you're new or your first time, it's fine too. Why would I ask you to learn about the company before the conversation? Why would I want you to do that? What would it prove about you that you would take that kind of time? Tell me in the chat. Why would I ask you to look them up? Why can't you just show up the day of and just learn in the moment, right? Why should you do any homework ahead of time? And while you answer that, I would like to hop over and look at the example that I had guided you to. And I want to pass it over to our guests. And thank you for saying you're interested and you're prepared. So I'd like for first, one of the three of you, whoever has the most knowledge of this project, to tell us about this project. This is a K-12 and higher education marine science building at Savannah State in Georgia. So one of you, please just help us understand, what type of role did your company play in this project?
Sure. Okay. Like I said before earlier, I was at one time involved.
Louder.
And I was involved in the prefabrication process where our detailers and it would go from engineers to the BIM modeling to the detailers, and then they would actually draw out what it was we were going to build. at our facility, and then from there, deliver it to the job site and actually have like those guys who are on the site put it up on in the walls or like in lighting or inside the walls as far as power, um, electrical panels, light fixtures, you name it, any of that. And I know specifically what we worked on in wall power. We worked on lighting, emergency lighting.
Emergency lighting.
Yes, where that involves generators that are hooked up to our lighting and our transformers at the job site, just in case the power goes out or a hurricane comes. Our guys are willing to wire up all of that before it goes to the job, so our guys don't have to do it on the site. And it saves a lot of money. It's safer. It's just smarter.
So I'll add on to that.
Please.
There's a lot of what we do in the fabrication process that can be done at the facility, and then just basically what she said is just taken to the job site and installed, where normally all of that materials and stuff shows up on the job site and you have to take it all apart and open it up and start putting all that stuff together there, and it's a lot more waste material. There's a lot more safety risk. You're trying to work around all the other trades that are there as well. So we try to do as much as we can in our fabrication facility. I can tell you a little bit about what my role was for that project. I did help with the hiring process over there. That's a project that our Statesboro division worked on, Statesboro, Georgia. They're over there in that area. And we hired probably an extra 20 to 25 people, field workers, helpers, electricians, and superintendents to work there. We also hired 3 high school students that were able to work on that project as well. So,
wow. Okay, so let me step back. First of all, I've got to get our rhythm back from last school year. Please start putting any of your own questions in the Q&A area in Zoom. Okay, please start putting your questions. I want to field your questions too. Students and teachers, put your question and your name in the Q&A section. Okay, so let me ask for Ms. Shanks a couple of questions about that. First of all, if a young person, high school student in particular, would show up to you looking for one of those 3 high school spots, and of those 3, one of those students had been on your website the night before learning about projects, the other 2 had not, how would you size up those students just on that alone?
Coming to me with specific questions about our company with a little bit of knowledge about it already shows that you really do have an interest, and probably would hit the top of the candidate list by doing so. Actually, you definitely would. We like that it really does show interest, and that we're not out there trying to convince somebody to come work for us. They're trying to convince us that they're the best person to come and work with us. So yeah, I love what you're doing with the interviewing skills and things with these students.
So thank you for just a quick response to that. How many students in here, by the show of hands, think that the night before an interview or an opportunity, you could visit that company's website and learn about their projects? Show of hands, who's capable of doing that? Who could spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe, and do some homework so you come in with some knowledge? I see some hands, which is great, because this is not a complicated skill that only certain students can understand. Everyone can do what we're talking about right now. So for those 3 students who worked on this project from high school, what were they doing?
They were considered electrical helpers on the job site. They were learning how to be electricians, basically. All 3 of them were dual enrolled in some sort of construction pathway at school and or through the local technical college there in an electrical program. So they were able to help do all the things that she said, install all that prefabricated material, hang emergency lighting and light fixtures, and got to see that project really from start to finish. It's awesome.
Ms. Shanks, take us through, over the months, over the years, you're going and speaking to groups, speaking to students, speaking to educators about the value of these types of jobs, making people aware, parents perhaps too, to say, college is one option. There are many other ways to have a successful career, a successful life, to have be gainfully employed, have a good salary, support yourself, support a family. What are you saying out there to educate all various audiences on the value of these types of jobs?
Well, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to make a great career. I have a lot of superintendents that started out as high school kids working in construction projects and went through apprenticeship programs that are working out there making well over 6 figures a year now. So it's a sustainable income. It's not going anywhere. They don't have any college debt, even though they received an education that is equivalent to a degree to learn the trade that they are in. That the company that they work for, not always us at first, but before or right now or prior to coming to us, paid for them to go through an apprenticeship program and complete all of that training. And they have now a Department of Labor registered journeyman's card that's good in all 50 states, which is basically your 4-year degree. And they can go work anywhere at this point. So, and
Wow.
there's a high demand. There's a high demand. We are
Tremendous.
for every 4 people that are leaving the trades due to either retiring or choosing to do something else or whatever it may be, only 1 person is entering the trades. So where are we going to be in just a few short years when our workforce has shrunk 75%? That's what I want.
So let me gather this up right. You can have your education potentially paid for. You could go from high school to a 6-figure salary eventually. You could have a stable career. Looking at everybody who's grappling with student loan debt who goes to a 4-year college, it seems like a great opportunity. And I'd be curious from the students who are here or maybe through their teacher, tell us some of the different tasks that you would like to do, the types of jobs or skills that you would enjoy doing out in the field. I'm curious to see the variety. And please also feel free, we got to wake the webinar series up this first time out. We got to get some questions in our Q&A. Usually it's running fast with questions. I'd love to see some questions in the Q&A of what you'd like to know from our guests. Okay, but I'd also like to see from in the chat just some of the skills that you would like to be out there getting your hands on the work. Maybe I'll go to Miss Berard. Tell us some of the, in your day-to-day, some of the hands-on that you're doing or that you've done. Just give us some of the actions, the verbs, the processes, the things that you're touching and doing. Paint a picture for us. Tell us what you're up to.
So like Amy, Ms. Drew was saying that we take design intent drawings and we reevaluate the layout of the design to fabricate certain pieces of the building, starting from underground layout with underground racks to electrical room layouts to in-wall rough end, overhead rough end, like she was talking about with lighting power.
Now, let me stop you for a second. You said rough end?
Yes.
What is that?
Correct. That is the correct terms in the electrical field of just installation when you're taking and you're installing conduit or MC cable, anything in the such of electrical.
Rough end because it's behind a wall.
Yeah.
And so you don't see what any of the electrical looks like behind the walls.
So I want to, again, I try to.
It is definitely lingo, is the electrical.
Yes, okay, no, that's great. So we try to treat these sessions as not just learning about a career, that's a huge part of it, but also learning about how to be a young adult. And what happened just there, she used a term called rough in. Now, I don't work in their space. I have not heard that term before. So what did I do? Can someone tell me in the chat, what did I do? I heard a term I didn't understand. And what did I do next? Does anybody know what I did? I asked for clarification. I said, do you mind explaining to me what that means? Right? Is there anything wrong with that, especially as a student? Ms. Shanks, if you had those high school students there, would you rather them ask what something means rather than stand there against the wall and just be quiet?
Absolutely. And
Right.
it does, every time I get a question that asks for clarification, it also shows interest in coming to work for us, interest in this industry.
So they're paying attention.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
And that they're paying attention, right? They're listening.
Yeah, they're paying attention and they're definitely engaged in the conversation.
And make sure that when we're commenting, everybody, please do it with the everyone setting, not the hosts and panelists. I see a comment from Miguel Pena that says, it shows you're willing to expand your knowledge, yes. Which again, we're talking about working in this particular field or in various trades. We're also talking about doing your homework the night before, being willing to ask questions, right? All of those things add up And at the end of the day, maybe Miss Shanks has to make a hire. She got to pick one of those three and they got to fill a spot. And it's like, which one is she going to go with? Right. And if you're always out there asking and shadowing and being curious, you might be the number one most obvious choice all along, and they're like, they got the job offer waiting right behind their back for you, basically, because like, you don't want to let a good one slip away, right? It's too hard to find high quality candidates. So we want you all to look like that at all times. So tell us a few more of the types of actions you're doing, Ms. Berard.
So basically with the three-dimensional modeling, we use authoring software. In any design you do, we use Autodesk products, but we basically, I'm going to use the word redesign. We're designing our material, our fabrication assemblies so that we can build it in the shop and send it out as a kit into the field like Amy and Nicole, Ms. Shanks and Ms. Drew were talking about. Send it in the field where they can pick it up and just install it. In the three-dimensional world, for myself, I will collaborate with other trades, mechanical, plumbing, structural, architectural, fire protection, all of the trades in the industry. We collaborate together and we coordinate the building in the design of what we're redesigning, so to speak, to make it work in the building. We're doing that all virtually before we build it and send it to the field for them to install it. So that's actually eliminating a lot of the job risk for hazards to happen, because we're fabricating these assemblies, we're designing it up front.
Right.
So we know it's going to fit in the field with the other trades before it's installed in the field.
Sounds
So
really neat to me. Go ahead, Ms. Shanks, go ahead.
So we don't have to rework once we get out there.
That's correct.
Of course.
If we're coordinating with the other trades and they hang their fire protection systems up where our electrical systems were supposed to go, then we have to either move their stuff or make our stuff work around it. And if we're coordinating it on the front end, we don't have to redo the work on the back end.
That's right.
Wow,
Saves money, saves time, and it's ROA,
Absolutely.
return on investment. Yeah.
What I really like is that, sometimes people say, well, I'm not good with my hands. I don't like working. Well, you could do that. You could also be working at the computer and doing, virtual mock-ups. And then for the prefabrication, I mean, there's so many roles you can play in this industry. It's not just like, well, I don't want to be on a job site every day. That's not who I am. Or maybe it is, everybody has their own thing, but there's so many different jobs, different responsibilities that gets the project to completion. And that's important for students to hear. We do have a question. I want to get to our questions from Jennifer in Kansas. Nice to have you here. What is the best way as a school counselor to forge relationships in industry to provide opportunities? We are new to internships. So I'll throw that to Ms. Shanks.
This is my favorite question that I get. And I'm so happy that I'm seeing the interest. A lot of times there's somebody in the school that is in charge of facilitating that role. And but they're not out there talking to students. I think it's almost like it's a secondary thing. Maybe they teach English 90% of the time, but they're also the work-based learning coordinator helping to coordinate. I think that people in the industry are anxious to get in the schools and talk to students and form those relationships. I don't know what the answer is because I'm from industry on how to get into the schools. And I think that educating and sending the message out that there are opportunities and that you can hire students or allow them to job shadow or come onto your site. We just don't know. I'm not a school teacher. I don't know what the rules are. I know that I have need to fill out here on this end, and we're looking for entry-level people coming into the trades. We're looking for recent high school graduates coming out to join us, but we're not educators, so we don't know. And vice versa.
So she asked, she said, is it okay? So we can invite someone like you in. I can reach out and say, can you come talk to our students? You would be okay with that.
And absolutely. And we have missed being out in the schools, and I'll coordinate it. I will grab an electrician. I'll grab Glenda and we'll haul a bunch of stuff and we'll come in there and we'll talk about all of the awesome things that we do here at our company. But that's been a little hard over the last couple of years because of COVID. We will gladly do it virtually as well. And I know a lot of people will. And so I'm happy. I've been able to connect. We are a subcontractor to a general contractor who has all the other trades that work underneath them. So since we're so excited and we've brought students in, I've been able to coordinate it with all of my contacts in the other industries. So now plumbing, the carpenters, the concrete folks, the general contractor, and
That's considered networking.
Networking.
So,
there you go. That's another one of those employability skills, right? You draw from the community and you all pool your resources, your knowledge together. I think that's great. And I saw a similar question from Ms. Tony Crockett, who's down your way in Georgia. So maybe you guys could sync up and present virtually she's in Fulton County. And
I will go to Fulton County.
There you go. There you go, Tony. Making it happen right now. So she can hop over and give a presentation. From a comment from Victoria Ojeda, ask the schools to invite them in for their advisory committee meetings that are held 2 times a year. Part of federal funding requires schools to hold these meetings. That's good.
I sit on several advisory boards in 4 or 5 different school districts across the state. That is another awesome thing. I love doing that. And it's helped me learn a lot about what the schools are required to do and what can we do to help them. And so yeah, there's a
question from Annetta Simon. Now she's in Southern California, and she says, how do we find companies in our part of the country? If you would, just doesn't matter where you are in America, if you want to just figure out, find somebody like the 3 of you, right? Like, how do we find you in our neighborhood? What would you suggest they Google or search? Like, how would you even kick off that kind of search to find folks who are willing to come into the school?
I would start with Google and look up any of the, skilled trade companies that are in your area, and then go to their website and look at their social media. And are they already out in the community and doing anything? And if they are, they will gladly come and help you too. Now, if their website or their social media has not been updated in 5 years, they probably don't have somebody like me that's out there engaging in the community. But if they do, then they definitely have somebody like me or similar that is out there working with the schools, and they can help you get in touch with all the other trades as well.
Mac, if you can just make a note, because real quick, Tony would like to connect with the 3 of you. So Mac, just make a note and we'll do an email introduction.
Well, I'd like to add Shank's comment on that. I mean, in today's world, it's all about social media and everything is accessible through the internet. Where I grew up speaking in person and making a phone call and showing up in person so that they could see my face and speaking to them directly. That doesn't hurt still today.
Right.
And a lot of younger generation are afraid to do that. They feel like it has to all channel through the internet, and that's not true. You can still make that in-person contact with a company or network, somebody that's within the company that, for example, I'll just give you a little bit about my background. I relocated to Valdosta, Georgia in 2009, and I was just eating lunch one day, and I met a project manager that works for Ace Electric over lunch and had a conversation with him about, hey, I'm looking for a job in Valdosta, Georgia. I still live and work in Albany, but I've been commuting an hour and a half drive. So do you have anything available? Just a short conversation led into my career here with Ace Electric.
I love it. It really, you can say it's old school. It's not old school. These are just the way to make things happen. I know we're all sitting in Zoom right now, but we could have just as easily been in a room together. Let's just step back. Look at what just happened with Ms. Crockett and Fulton and the 3 of them, right? She said, I'm looking for someone to help me. They are in the part of the country where they could. So we, as our company, again, underscoring what we teach, we will send an email to connect everybody together so they could have an existing relationship and work with each other to send students out into these occupations. So this is real life. And when we talk about networking, it doesn't mean you ask somebody, can you hire me? Can I have a job? Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Where networking is about connecting. And maybe, what are we going to gain something tangible, financial from connecting them? No. But does that matter? No. We talk a lot in our program about you help others first. Maybe it comes back to you, maybe it doesn't. That doesn't matter. You help other people, and it'll one way or another, the universe will we'll make sure that you're taken care of too. But we want to make sure others are connected. We want to look out for others and ourselves too. But thinking about connecting people, that's a employability skill that is kind of hard to teach. But hopefully you just saw it right there. And that's the best way to understand. Do you have any comments on that, any of the three of you? Well, because I think it's a teachable moment, what we just did.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add too, if for students that are applying. So I put out an ad recently hiring summer high school interns. So rising juniors and seniors, we wanted to hire a few of them. And I had, I don't know, 20 or 30 applicants. And the only ones that I interviewed that had a guaranteed interview, which I did not tell them anybody this, were the ones that applied and then called to follow up on the application. I wanted to hear their voice. I wanted to see if they were going to take that extra step and pick up the phone and give me a call.
Well, in our curriculum, we have an exercise. We have a video, on how to call a business. And in the video, we teach students to introduce yourself. When the person answers, you state your name, you state your purpose, and then you ask for the person. You don't just say, "Hi, is Nicole there?" Right? Calling just shows a lot of character just alone, but then you got to get on the call and you got to be the best person to call out of the people who called, right? So every step you're being judged against whoever else is still with you, right? So these are not old school skills because people still use the phone in business. You can't hang up if they don't answer. You can't text a business line, nor should you, right? Because you can't text employers. We have to learn. So I love that you held students to that standard. They didn't even know they were, but it just shows that these skills are so valuable, even in jobs that are not office jobs, quote unquote, or, white collar jobs, or however you want to describe it. They matter for every single job out there. And I think that's such a great lesson a little experiment that you played to really get to and I'm sure the students you picked were really top notch.
They were.
They had to be at that point because they're really thinking ahead of the group. Well, pause for 1 second. I want to do a writing lesson with students in the chat. So students and teachers, please join me in the chat. Okay. And I want to share my screen and we'll come back and answer some final questions. Let me get my screen queued up. Okay. For the teachers here, how many students send you messages with lowercase i's? Any hands up for lowercase i's? In their documents and their emails, the texting language, it's running rampant across America. And we have to teach students that when we're communicating professionally, there are rules in society. So what I want the students to do, I'm going to show you this email that's full of I's and U's. And what I want you to do, I want the students to do this, please. If you're at your computer or through the teacher, I want you to, the part I just put in highlight, can you please type this line in the chat as a complete sentence with what goes at the end of a sentence? I'm not even going to tell you the name of the item. I want you to show me you understand. How do you end a sentence? And I want you to correct the part that's in highlight that I've dragged in the chat. Okay, because again, these are little tiny things, but you're hearing it from Ms. Shanks, from all three of them. You have to come with everything together. You can't be casual. Someone's going to beat you out. She only interviewed people who called after they applied. So you think she's going to talk to you if everything is lowercase and no period? There, I just gave the word away. You think she's talking to you? Do you think, Ms. Shanks, are you writing somebody back if the email is all no punctuation, no capitalization, no spaces?
Not normally, no.
Not normally, no. And it's not a job to be an English teacher.
No.
Let's get real. It's just to work for a company. But at the end of the day, you're working for them. You're working under their brand, and how you communicate reflects on that company. So there's a risk associated with bringing you on.
If you can't write to us just even on a regular email, then how are we expecting you to fill out a report properly as it relates to your job, whether it's an incident report related to safety or ordering something from our fabrication department and
That's right.
The communication being clear.
That's right. That's right. And I see some great examples in the chat. These look fantastic. Thank you for playing along with our grammar game, because again, this is not an English class. It's not what you came for, but you came here to learn the skills for real life. And I want it, so the next time you apply for something, you are checking your work twice so that you'll at least get that initial response. You can't even get through the door. And I always like to say, you know, it's possible one of those high school students that you brought on to go to the job site, it's very possible, the world is a funny thing, that young person could get hired, become a superintendent. Maybe in 15, 20 years, they run that company.
Absolutely.
Is that possible? Could that happen? Yes, it could. But if that first message is not good, you might not answer them at all. And so that entire life path that I just said doesn't exist. It never was, right? But it could happen if that first message, that first conversation goes differently. And that's what this is all about.
Several examples of it in our in our company as well. One of our division managers, our fabrication engineering division manager, started out in high school as a helper and is now that division manager.
There you go. It's very possible. I say to students, you know, every opportunity is there for you, but you've got to work towards it. And if somebody doesn't pick you, it's not because you're unlucky. It's because you didn't come at it the way that you needed to come at it. You're always in control of yourself and how you communicate with other people. And really the bar is not that high right now for students. If you can just communicate just a touch better than the crowd, you're going to get that initial conversation. It's really, you know, I'm not asking you to get a PhD in British literature to land a job. You just have to be thinking, how is this going to be perceived? So with that, let me just wrap up with the things that I mentioned at the beginning. For those who missed it, we have this Google Drive of email etiquette lessons we'd love to provide. So these topics, these critical topics of how to just send basic messages, all for free in a Google Drive folder, and a checklist for online presentations. So if you missed this offer at the beginning, please go to the chat right now and type interested and your email address, and we will pass this along. If you're new to our community, never used our content before, ideally we want to have a brief phone call. We'll send you a Google invitation for a 5-minute call in the next couple of days. So say hello, pass it along. And if the time doesn't work, just respond back with a new time. Okay. And thank you, Jennifer. We are a Reuben school. That's what we're driving at. We want to create, you know, Reuben trained students who can go out in the world and talk and communicate in the manner we're discussing. If you missed, you're watching it on a recording, email us at the email address on the screen. We'll send you the resources that way. Quick reminder that in 2 weeks, we're talking to an executive or someone in the executive office of the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Islanders about working for a professional sports team or working in sports in general. That'll be really cool. And then finally, those of you who are with us, we'll send out your certificate for being here on Thursday morning. It is Wednesday, right? Sometimes I lose track, but yes, I think I got all that right. So let me back out of here. And again, I want to thank our guests. I hope that the students and teachers gained a good understanding of the work that they do, and also all the other pieces, which every employer in America will tell you, these soft skills, these professional skills, they matter just as much as the technical work that's being done. And so I hope that we gave you a good mix of the two today. I want to thank our 3 guests. Ms. Shanks, I'll give you a final remark to the students and teachers who are here today to try to learn more about the field.
Absolutely. And I thank you for having us here. And I can't see anything. Hold on, let me get rid of this pop-up. We really appreciate, you know, letting us come here, and we would be happy to answer any questions. You can send me an email at careers@aceelectric.net, and I'd be happy to help anybody with any questions. But the biggest thing that I wanted to mention from all this is that the trades are no longer a secondary choice or a fallback for students. And it's not something that you can't do if you're a woman, if you're a female. And so there is there's opportunity out there for anybody, man, woman,
Absolutely.
young, old.
And construction, electricals for subcontractors, it's not just all about turning a wrench in the field, and that's what it's perceived to be. I mean, you have designers in the office, you know, you have fabricators, welders, assemblers, you know. We're now in the virtual world through the computer, you know, we're building these buildings virtually before they're actually built in real time. So it's not always being in, you know, in the heat or in the cold or in the rain. You know, you can be in a controlled environment. You can be designers. You can be fabricators. If you want to go out in the field, you know, Amy was one to start there. So it's not bad. It's not bad.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's an important message that all of the country needs to hear, CTE needs to hear, and young people need to hear that these jobs are for everybody. I do want to mention for Ms. Shanks, Mr. Blevins wrote that he's a CTE state supervisor for engineering, technology, manufacturing in Florida, and he may want to connect. So we'll provide you that email address afterwards if you want to connect with him. Maybe he's not too far away from you. So again, we're just a couple minutes past our time. I want to thank our guests. I think you all did a wonderful job. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Shanks, thank you for coordinating. And we did put the link in the chat. I'll do it one more time to our upcoming webinars. You will see our one about sports careers come out next week, but all the links to our entire series are already live on our website. So sign up anytime. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. So thank you again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and your week.